Hello, gazers.
Hello, gazers. Dr. Lee here.
And Dave.
How are we all? I hope you're fine and dandy wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now.
I hope the sun is shining, because sun is shining here.
Yes, it is.
So on one of the hottest days of the year, what do? Confine ourselves to a small room under some intense ring lights.
Yes, such is our dedication to the problematic gaze cause.
Show business isn't easy.
No.
Not a walk in the park.
No, it's not.
You know, many people crave fame,
Yes.
but little do they realise.
I mean, our lives have changed since that Radio Times review a couple of weeks ago. We're mobbed wherever we go.
Yes.
Can't step outside the door without the paps going for us.
No.
It's just relentless, isn't it?
It is relentless, and no one tells you about the trappings of fame.
No.
Many a fable forewarns, but we didn't take heed, did we?
We didn't take heed, and it's all gone a bit Fontaine-Carled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to sign the nipple yesterday.
Did you?
Yes, I did. In Waitrose.
Wow.
I know.
We soldier on, don't we?
Soldier on. And
through-
before we do soldier on, please like and subscribe and follow, because we are an independent podcaster. Davey Davis Technical Department, working all the hours God sends to produce this.
And Lee, you do oodles of research.
So please follow. We love it. And we love to hear from you. And we've got mailbag.
Are our sacks bulging?
Our sacks are bulging.
Okay.
We've got some comments on our prisoner episode via Instagram. Ruth has given a little message to us.
Hi,
Hello,
Ruth. Honorary gazer.
Honorary gazer. Morning from sunny Yorkshire. You're from Yorkshire, aren't you?
Yeah.
She wants to thank us for reminding her about, quote, the incredibly good, crap and compelling in equal measure Prisoner. And she used to be a social worker in a residential centre for young people back in the early 90s.
Oh.
And there was a big Prisoner fan base, apparently. And the show helped her break the ice with the residents back in the day. And she wants to thank Prisoner for helping her in her first social work job. Isn't that lovely?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks,
And-
Ruth. I
yes.
mean, who would have thought that people would, we watched it as entertainment, didn't we? But people have obviously got things for their career out of it as well.
Yes, they have. And she wants to congratulate us for our appearance in the Radio Times.
Ah.
She says as one of the original gazers, she's very proud of us.
Yes.
Thank you very Ruth. Thank you very much, Ruth.
Thank you very, Ruth.
Thank you very Ruth much. Yeah.
Well, it's gazers like Ruth who got us into the Radio Times in the first place.
Yes, it is. So thank you. And Jeannie's also commented on Instagram, wondered if we'd ever saw the Lily Savage tour of Prisoner. Did you ever see it?
I didn't.
No.
I didn't, because that was back in the days where I didn't have much money to go and do nice things as an impoverished student.
Well, both Ruth and Jeannie both saw it.
Really?
Yes, they did. As Ruth says, if it doesn't score high on the camp scale, she's no idea what does. So I
Right.
can imagine. We've also had an email after our blind date episode.
Blind date.
Yeah. And Sue from Leicester. That's written in. Sue was cabin crew back in the day.
Okay, so if our legal team on the 73rd floor could just pay particular attention to the next 2 minutes, please.
Because we did comment that Cilla Black, host of Blind Date, had a terrible reputation with cabin crew and was part of the unholy trifecta of Cilla, Shirley Bassey and Joan Collins, friend of the pod. Also, Sue says Kylie Minogue was lovely.
Oh, well, that's to be expected, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've never seen a dark side of Kylie.
No, I haven't either. I don't think one exists.
No.
Maybe it's like The Substance and there's an evil Kylie hidden in a room somewhere and we've just got lovely Kylie.
Yeah, well, that's Danny Minogue, isn't it?
Let's not pit the Minogue sisters against each other because they're really good friends. Crashing on. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Jeannie Nunu. And thank you, Sue from Leicester.
Yeah, well, do you think Ruth and Jeannie Nunu are friends? Or if they're not friends, they should become friends?
They should, because they could talk about Lily
Well,
Savage.
it'd be nice for us to think that our gazers are...
Forging new friendships and relationships. That's lovely, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's our invite?
Yeah. We like cake.
Well, we like a bottle of champagne each.
Obviously. Take the glass home with us.
Yeah, take the glasses home with us.
So no plastic ones.
No.
We know your tricks.
Fair enough to Scylla. You know, if you're going to pay for first class seat, then you do want champagne in abundance, don't you?
You do.
Yeah. Do you think there'll come a time as our careers propel into the stratosphere where we'll only talk through our PAs?
Yes.
Do you think?
Yeah.
We'll have our own separate dressing rooms and we'll literally meet when we're on stage at the Albert Hall.
Yeah.
And then when we leave the stage, then...
Never the twain shall meet again.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
I look forward to that.
I do, actually. It'd be really nice not to have to deal with you on a daily basis. But anyway, never mind. Let's forge on.
We're joking, of course.
I'm not.
Thank you. So, today, TeleTARDIS is taking us back to the 90s. Blind Date was 96. We're going now to 1997.
Okay, so just a little quick
Jaunt
in the TARDIS.
To look at an episode of the Channel 4 series A Brass Eye, which was on drugs. First broadcast 5th of February 1997. What's your relationship with Brass Eye?
Well, I think I was doing other things at the time.
Right.
It kind of passed me by. I mean, I knew what it was. I knew there was a controversy around it surrounding an episode on paedophilia, but I don't remember seeing that. So watching it back, yeah, I thought, oh, I have seen this before at some point. It's not indelibly imprinted on my brain.
Yeah, I'm the same. I watched it at the time, I think. I was aware of the controversy. I thought it was clever and funny at the time, but let's see when we get into the deep dive.
We're not selling it very well, are we?
No, we're not. But
it's on YouTube.
Yes, it is.
So we'll post a link.
Yeah.
24 minutes long.
It's very 90s. This is the same year as The Girly Show. We have covered some news events from 1997 in The Girly Show episode. And on that basis, should we head over to the news desk for a few more?
So as we said, Brass Eye, the drugs episode, broadcast on the 5th of February 1997. This is what was going on in the year of 1997, news-wise. So on the 7th of January, 2.5 million people take part in a phone-in vote as part of an ITV debate on the British monarchy, a 2-1 majority vote in favour of retaining the institution.
Yeah, because the royals are a bit of bother at this time, aren't they? Obviously, we've got Charles and Di's divorce, got Sarah and Andrew divorce.
Yeah, we've got Diana gallivanting off with Dodi Fayed and all
and
that
of course,
kind of stuff.
this is a big year for Diana.
Big year.
Yeah, we have talked about that in our other episode. Yeah. 2.5 million people is a lot of people to ring a phone line, isn't it? Yeah. Obviously, the calls for republicanism continue to grow in this country, but that's another debate for another time, I suspect.
It is.
On the 16th of January, Chris Evans resigns from BBC Radio 1 after his request for a 4-day week is refused. Lazy bastard. Since joining the station as a breakfast DJ in 1995, he's boosted the audience numbers by 700,000. He's a proper celeb at the time, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, we've got the year before TFI Fridays started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Billie Piper has only ever had good words to say about
Yes,
Chris
she
Evans.
has. Yeah, she has. Yeah. And Strange doesn't talk about her other ex, Lawrence Fox.
Completely
silent.
You would be, wouldn't you?
It would be.
Oh.
Hey ho.
Hey ho. On the 30th of January, an underground anti-road protest ends as the last protester, known as Swampy, in brackets Daniel Hooper, emerges from the network of tunnels beneath the A30 extension site in Devon.
Swampy was a bit of a name as well, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
Eco-warrior.
Yeah.
Celebrated and derided in equal measure.
Bless him. Up a tree.
Yeah.
Oh no, down the tunnel.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
18th of March, the Sun newspaper, a traditional supporter of the Conservative Party, declares its support for Tony Blair and Labour, condemning the Conservatives as, quote, tired, divided and rudderless. A stark contrast to its support for the Tories in the run-up to the 1992 election. And of course, there's going to be election this year and Tony Blair will win with a landslide victory in August, isn't it?
It just goes to show how fickle the papers can be.
Yeah, and also, back then, how much power they had.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the Sun is still getting 4 million readers a day.
Yes. Well, it was a big turning point, wasn't it, when all of a sudden it splashed on the papers we're backing Blair.
Yeah, there's a Sun that won it.
So on the 8th of April, BBC journalist Martin Bell announces that he is to stand as an independent parliamentary candidate against Neil Hamilton in the Tatton constituency on an anti-corruption platform.
On the 25th of June, an auction of dresses owned by Diana, Princess of Wales in Manhattan raises more than £2 million for charity. And this was another classic example of Diana can do no right, but Diana can do no wrong at the same time. So she gets criticised on one hand for the frivolity of all this wardrobe she's had, but at the same time she gets lauded for raising money for charity.
Yeah.
Can't win.
Can't win.
Can't win. 2 months later.
2 months later.
We've said this before, but it's really weird when you see Diana doing stuff at this point. You just know the clock's ticking, don't you?
Yeah, the Saint-Tropez.
In the Med, sunning herself.
The landmines.
Landmines a bit earlier, just about a month before, and again, really criticised. The Tory party really weighing on her, shouldn't get involved, blah, 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 blah.
On the 11th of September, there's a referendum in Scotland on the creation of a national parliament with devolved powers takes... Right, that doesn't make sense.
A referendum in Scotland.
Yeah, okay. Can we get on to the research department, please? Okay, on the 11th...
Get to the language department, someone's forgotten how to speak and read.
On the 11th of September, a referendum in Scotland on the creation of national parliament with developed powers takes place.
Devolved powers.
With devolved. Can we just forget this one?
It's important.
All right, then. On the 11th of September, a referendum in Scotland on the creation of a national parliament with devolved powers takes place on two separate questions. Voters back the plans for both a national parliament and for it to have limited tax-raising powers. That was a very boring fact.
It was, but it's quite an important one in terms of the United Kingdom, because on the 18th of September, a week later, the Welsh devolution referendum takes place and voters back the plans for the creation of a National Assembly. And we talked about this, I think, in our Blind Date episode, because actually the growing causes of Scottish and Welsh independence have been really gathering pace. There's a slow rot that sets in after the war, basically. It's all part of that whole English thing about, what do you mean you don't like us? Why do you want to be separate? Because you've treated like shit for the last 400 years, but this is the countries flexing their powers, rightly so. The 29th of September, British scientists state they found a link between Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease and the eating of BSE-infected meat. Because there's been all the burning cows.
Mad cow
disease, yeah.
Mixed bag.
The year obviously dominated by Diana. Will be the second half of the year, but we have covered that already.
Yes,
so
we have. No need to rake over all ground.
Rake over that.
Oh, bless you, Diana.
Bless you, Diana. Should we have a look at the telly of 1997?
Yeah.
I see what some of the new shows that appeared on our TV screens at the time.
Teletubbies.
Obviously too old for the Teletubbies.
Yeah.
We weren't the target market.
Whoever created the Teletubbies must be sat on their luxury yacht in the Med right now.
Yeah.
Or gallivanting around the world to one of their many houses.
Yeah.
Absolute juggernaut Teletubbies, wasn't it?
Amazing, really.
Yeah. We need to formulate an idea.
Yeah,
about
let's
the
do it.
Teletubbies.
Let's
Should we
do it, yeah.
Probably have to take a horrendous amount of LSD before we even put pen to paper.
Not a problem. On Channel 5, they debut a new soap, Family Affairs.
Where the Heart Is. Now, this was kind of like a gentle, sleepy drama, wasn't it? Set in a fictional Yorkshire town of Skelthwaite. Pam Ferris was in that. Leslie Dunlop.
Bob the Builder begins this year. We Can Fix It.
Yes, we can. Jonathan Creek starts as well. Never really got into Jonathan Creek.
No, I didn't either. It was kind of compared to Doctor Who in some circles, because it's similar kind of... He had a doctor-y vibe about him, which meant I couldn't watch it on a point of principle.
And he always had an assistant, didn't he?
Julia Sawalha.
Dream Team starts as well, which is a British sports drama.
Football. Ran for 10 years. Never watched it. Ground Force begins.
Yes.
Makeover of Gardens. Charlie Dimmock.
With no bra on.
No bra. I mean, that was a huge thing, wasn't it? Charlie Dimmock's boobs.
Yeah. My dad had a little soft spot for Charlie Dimmock.
Not so soft. The Nazis, a warning from history. BBC documentary broadcast that year. Do people take warning lessons from history?
No. Starting all over again, isn't it?
All over again.
Yeah. Cold Feet starts this year, the television pilot. James Nesbitt, Helen Baxendale and co. Did you ever watch Cold Feet?
I didn't watch it, no. It was deliberately designed to appeal to middle-class audiences who the producer thought were being neglected by TV landscape at the time. Michael Palin's back with another of his documentary series, Full Circle, a 10-part documentary, a journey of 15,000 miles through 18 countries around the Pacific Rim. I
was going to say, it'd need more than a 10-part series to journey around your rim. But anyway, let's move on.
Right, should we have a look at the top 20 music charts? Week of the 2nd of February 1997.
Let's do it.
How many of you do you think you're going to know?
I think we're going to know a few.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's see. Okay, number 20, Lopez, 808 State.
Hedonism, Just Because You Feel Good, Skunk Anansie.
Good song.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure I know it.
Yeah, you will do.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Skin from Skunk Anansie.
Yeah, I did as well.
She was great. Number 18, Our Girls.
Our Girls.
Two Become One, the Spice Girls,
Yes.
has been at number 1,
Yep.
obviously.
Christmas, so it's still going down. Still in the top 20, 6 weeks after Christmas. Professional Widow, Gotta Be Big. And number 17, I love that song.
Yeah.
This is when I'm proper getting into clubbing. And that was a huge hit. Yeah.
It took me years to work out what she was actually saying.
Wow.
At number 16, Quit Playing Games with My Heart.
I know that one.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, I actually know it. I'm quite disturbed I know that.
Backstreet Boys songs were all a little bit samey and generic, weren't they?
I think so. It just
Yeah.
wasn't my thing. I was
Boy
too busy in the
bands.
Spice Girls at this point,
Yeah.
though. Yeah. Passion, Amen, exclamation mark, UK.
I'm sure we will know that
I'm sure we
one.
know that
Yeah.
one. I'm sure I'll probably going to that one, but
Yeah.
what it is, couldn't tell you.
Okay, number 14, Little Wonder by David Bowie. I said it right, can you imagine?
You got it right. Well done.
Yeah.
God, it's only taken nearly a year of episodes, but well done,
yeah,
darling.
thank
That's
you.
progress.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Don't know that song at all.
No.
Remember Me, Blue Boy, number 13. Another cracking
Yeah,
song.
great song.
Yeah.
At number 12, in her covers era, obviously, Walk On By, Gabrielle.
Not more to say about that. Is there number 11, George Michael with Older? This era of George kind of passed me by as well.
Me too. But I mean, no offence to George Michael and all his fans out there, because I adore George Michael.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Number 10, I finally found someone, Barbra Streisand and Bryan Adams. Now, I think I'd rather shoot myself in the face than listen to that.
Oh, number 9, one for you, darling. Nancy Boy. By Placebo.
Shout out to my fan out there on the
Yeah.
World Wide Web who
Yes.
took time out of his day simply to call me a Nancy boy.
And hello, 1978. They want you back
Yeah.
wherever you are. Say What You Want, Texas, number 8. Did I tell you my Texas story?
No.
Me and your husband went to the ABBA premiere, ABBA Voyage.
yes.
I was at the merchandise stall, quietly flicking myself off over all the available goods. And this lady next to me went, "Which one do you fancy?" And I looked, and it was Charlene from Texas. And we ended up having a lovely chat about the T-shirts.
Very good.
Very nice lady.
Yeah, just chatting to her peers. Yes.
And me.
Little did she know at the time
Wow.
how the problematic gays would take off and everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was 3 years ago, so we didn't know either.
No. Well, Charlene, if you ever want to come on, I mean, I know you've already met Lee and had a good chat with him.
Yes, about ABBA T-shirts.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to come on the pod.
Yes.
Pick a topic of your choice.
Is Charlene now a friend of the pod?
She's a friend of the
Friend
pod.
of the pod.
Yeah.
Friend of the pod, Charlene Spiteri.
Number 7, Beetlebum, Blur. I went to see Blur
Did you?
in Hyde Park. It was only about 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow.
And it felt a little bit on edge.
What do you mean?
Just, I think there was a lot of drugs flying around.
I'm
So
astonished.
it just felt a little bit antagonistic, the atmosphere. Like
it was a bit Larry.
bit leery and it could kick off at any moment.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Bet that's what Oasis is going to feel like as well.
Yeah, I
you've got
reckon.
amped up.
Yeah, I think I might give the Oasis one a miss. Well, I haven't got any tickets anyway.
So me too.
We'll be giving the
Me
Oasis
too.
a
I will
miss.
definitely not be watching the Oasis concert.
No.
Definitely not.
We'll watch it from the comfort of our sofas.
I probably won't.
Do you think, leading up to the concerts, the Oasis concerts this year, there'll be a big scandal of will he or won't he, or it'll be planted in the papers that they've had a massive bust up, so right up until the event you don't know who's going to come on stage,
and then
it'll
of
all
course,
be PR'd within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
I guarantee that's going to happen.
Yeah, I concur. I think you've got some in there, Dave.
Yeah.
Number 6, Do You Know, Michelle Gale. Not Do You Know, Michelle Gale. The name of the song is Do You Know by Michelle Gale.
Yeah.
Obviously, not long from EastEnders.
No, but I mean, I can't believe she's still kicking around at this point.
Yeah. Well, she had a couple of years of quite good songs.
Sweetness.
Yes. Yeah.
Banger.
And then she went into musicals, West End.
Yes.
She's been working solidly ever since.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Success stories, Michelle Gale.
Yeah.
At number 5, Don't Let Go. Brackets love, On Vogue. Love a bit
that
of On
song.
Vogue.
Me too.
Did you hear recently that one of them's been sleeping in her car?
I saw that, but actually she's quite happy with it and says, it's actually my choice to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Just shows you, doesn't it? You can be one of the biggest groups in the world.
Yeah.
And you end up with nout.
The lesson for us too there, one day you end up with a review in the Radio Times.
And the next week, you're sleeping in your car. Haven't got a car.
Well, you're screwed then, aren't you? I've got a car. You ain't sleeping in it. Number 4, Toxygene by The Orb. My favourite Orb song is Little Fluffy Clouds.
I don't really... It was a bit too trancy for me, The Orb. Your Woman, White Town at number 3. I like that song. Yeah. It's a good little chart,
It is a good little chart,
yeah.
actually. We were obviously quite lucid around January 1997.
Yeah, well, probably still recovering from New Year 1996,
yeah,
weren't we?
that's true, actually. Where Do You Go by No Mercy.
Yeah, I know that one. Actually, at the moment on BBC 4, they're repeating Top of the Pops from 97. And when I saw this song, I was like, what the hell's that? And it came on, it was like, oh my God, that bloody song. Do you remember it? Where do you go, my lovely? Feel like
just like that.
Yeah. Latinos with guitars.
Yes.
Almost a bit Gypsy Kings.
Yeah.
But they were 3 pretty boys with guitars.
Oh, were they?
Yes, they were. Where the checkout,
Is there
darling?
a picture? I get the vibe.
Good vibe.
Yeah. Big forearms.
Big forearms, guitar playing forearms. Yeah. Do you want to see what number 1 is?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh.
Ain't Nobody, LL Cool J. I don't know if that's a cover of the...
With the Rufus and Shaka Khan classic, maybe. Probably it's the 90s, isn't it?
Lots of covers. So
Yeah.
Sorry, LL Cool J. Please still come on the pod.
Yeah.
But we don't know what that song is.
Yeah. Well, thank you, LL Cool J, for being there at number 1, giving us a talking point about a song we don't really know.
Crashing on.
Crashing on. Right, Dave, to the matter at hand. Would you like to tell the listeners a bit about Brass Eye?
Brass Eye is a British satirical television series parodying current affairs news programming. A series of 6 episodes aired on Channel 4 in 1997 and a further episode in 2001. The series was created and presented by Chris Morris and was written by him, David Quantick, Peter Bainham, James Busman, Arthur Matthews, Graham Linehan, and Charlie Brooker, and it was directed by Michael Cumming.
Now, I know Jane, actually. I didn't realise she was one of the writers. I used to live with her sister.
Oh.
When I went to LA, the time I saw Jackie Collins,
Oh, yes.
Jane was very close acquaintance with one of the creators of South Park and went to see some Mexican wrestling. It was great. And then went hung out with all the wrestlers and the dancers afterwards.
How random
And
is that?
she was, the South Park guy was staying in one of Betty Davis's old house in the Hollywood Hills. And we stayed overnight in the Hollywood Hills. It was great.
In
Really
Betty
cool.
Davis' old house?
Yeah.
Honestly, you
Yeah.
have very illuminating and interesting life, and I get little snippets every now and again.
My secret past.
Secret past. Now, you and the wrestlers, is that a story that we can transmit pre-Watershed?
There was a lot of tequila, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah. And I did have a big feathered headdress on at one point from one of the girls. They were lovely, and they were Mexican dwarf wrestlers.
Oh,
I was chatting to one guy who refused to take his leather mask off the whole time, which was actually kind of hot.
we've all been there.
We've all been there, love. The lights come on and suddenly, oh, it's a community centre in Chipping Norton. So did I tell you what happened in this episode of Brass Eye?
Yes, let's do it, yeah.
Okay, it's a drug-tastic episode of the hard-hitting news programme Brass Eye. The programme explores the modern drugs epidemic, the legalities of drug use, and with the help of many celebrities, the programme explores the dangers of a new drug from the Czech Republic called cake. Or does it? That's all we need to say.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's kind of a game of two halves, this. I did think there were some good elements to it. I thought it was some really clever scripting in it. Well, we should say the setup. I think if anyone's kind of seen Screen Wipe,
Is that Charlie Brooker?
Charlie Brooker, who obviously was, as a writer on this at some point, it reminded me a little bit of a few programmes, actually. My main bugbear about this was that it was dressed up as intellectual. Obviously, it was a parody and it was all a setup, so it
Yeah.
was kind of like a scripted comedy, really, but
Yes.
presenting itself as in a kind of like a Newsnight kind of
Very Jerry
vibe.
Paxman vibe, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
There was a lot of punching down.
There was, yes.
And I felt as though it was trying to be more clever than it actually was.
Right.
We go on the streets and he talks to a real-life drug dealer, or we think it's a real-life drug dealer. I don't know if it is or not.
I think it was.
Well, his face was all blurred, wasn't
Yeah.
he? And it's all kind of, hidden camera kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And he goes and he talks all this gobbledygook drug language to this
Yeah.
drug dealer who gets increasingly confused about
yeah.
what he's saying.
Yeah, he keeps asking for these stupidly named drugs, doesn't he? This guy's
Yeah.
like, we don't have it. You need to leave us alone. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? If anything's more 90s, it's when there were drug dealers on the streets like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Compared to today, when it's like Uber Eats with
Yes.
drugs. It was astonishing that people used to look for the dealers on the street in Soho.
And apparently these days it's like Deliveroo. You can
Yeah, it
just
is.
go on the internet and get anything you want to.
It's on your
delivered to
phone, love. It's on your phone.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fabulous.
I don't know, I'm a country boy now. I've left the hedonistic dizzy heights of London behind.
Yeah. I mean, it is quite astonishing. You can put an order in, an hour later, the drugs are at your door.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Do you remember all the weed dealers on Camden Bridge?
Yes. I remember the first time my friend ever bought weed from a weed dealer on Camden Bridge and paced up and down for about an hour trying to pluck up the courage to do it. I remember there used to be a secret club in Soho off Charing Cross Road that you have to do a special knock.
Yeah.
And this hatch would open up and you have to go upstairs and it's this underground pool club.
Right.
And you could get whatever you wanted there.
Really?
Yeah, another part of my former life.
Yeah. Well, Soho's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it?
Was it ever thus?
Yes.
I mean, the thing about this is it's very much set up in the style, as you say, of Newsnight, those news reports, you know. So it's, as on the surface, it appears quite serious. And one of the controversial things about it was that, in fact, it fooled a lot of people, which just shows how more naive and non-savvy, media-savvy people were in the 90s, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The title sequence is very much in the style of those news things that suddenly started appearing in the 90s, didn't they? Very bombastic.
Yeah.
Did you know brass eye is a term for the arsehole, apparently?
No.
I've never heard that before, but apparently that's why it's called brass eye. And the purpose of the show, it tells us, is there's a drugs epidemic in Britain. The newspaper headlines say it all. So there's a fake newspaper headlines. Liam's new staircase made out of gear. Drugged bankers pulled my wife's head off and puked down her neck hole. Last one on drugs is a queer, yelled Portillo, little snook at Michael Portillo, who was rumoured to be gay. But as you say, a lot of this is really on the knuckle and kind of punches down, doesn't it? They're talking about the proliferation of drugs in society, that even our politicians are on them, and there's a really horrible clip of Margaret Thatcher slumping over a microphone when she's obviously having a funny turn, which made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. There's a family torn apart by drugs, which is a disabled teenager in a wheelchair, a blind mother who are held together by the father's crack dealing. And it was just all a little bit...
I can't quite put my finger on why it was punching down, but it was just quite easy. Even though there was some sharp writing in it, it felt a bit like an upscale Beatles About.
Yes.
You know, where they would send people into scenarios and wind up members of the general public. Just seemed quite easy to do. There's a lot of celebrities espousing the dangers of drugs. So they've obviously got onto these celebrities and said, look, there's this new drug, we're doing a documentary on it, warning the general public about the dangers of this new drug called cake, and got all these inverted commas celebrities to warn against the dangers of it. Now, obviously, these celebrities are coming on thinking, we're doing a good thing here. I can't imagine any of them knew that this was a setup when they did it.
No, and this is very much a forerunner of Ali G, Philomena Conk, you know, where you take famous people. Now, one of the things that Chris Morris has said is that he wanted to comment on how anti-drug and hysteria can be whipped up by the media in the UK. And also a comment on how celebrities and politicians, to ridicule them for kind of the speed that they jump on a bandwagon. Yeah. Which I think actually, because of the flack they get afterwards, in terms of celebrities, you know, are you really stupid enough to believe this? Because some of the things they get them to say are so ridiculous. You know, at one point, Bernard Manning is one of the celebrities. Yeah. They're clearly there to take the piss out of these celebrities. Bernard Manning says at one point, there was a girl who had this drug and then she vomited up her own pelvis bone or something. Clearly ridiculous. But clearly these celebrities are doing it with such earnestness. Now, whether you view that as being cruel to them or a comment on how much people are prepared to jump on the bandwagon, I think it's quite interesting that some people will just say any old shit if they're going to be on the telly or seem to be supporting a worthwhile cause. So I think it's a fairly fair...
No, I just feel it just rests uneasy with me. It's kind of like the whole fake shake thing from the News of the World.
Right.
You know, when he would basically spend months setting up celebrities only to kind of sting them.
Yes.
Either in kind of drugs deals or sex scandals or royals cash for time and all that kind of thing. And it just feels really lazy to me. I mean, for a gotcha moment. You know, I mean, they even have Noel Edmonds here, who's the king of gotcha, being gotcha'd himself. Yeah. But I just didn't really see the point of it, to be honest. To me, it didn't seem like, you know, at the time when you're setting this kind of thing up with Bernard Ingham, Jimmy Greaves, Bruno Brooks, Rolf Harris,
Noel
Edmonds, and that twat Bernard Banning. I just think when you go into the room with these people and you know, like the camera crew knows, the director knows, the producer knows that they're there to be set up, it just feels to me like a really futile endeavour. And I mean, do they walk away from it thinking, oh, we really got them there, we've got some great material? It just feels really lazy to me.
Right. I'm not getting that, because I think Philomena Cunt does exactly the same.
I think with they're in on the jokes.
Yeah.
Though.
And you could argue this is kind of a forerunner of all of those.
Yeah, but I do think with Philomena Kunk, they know what they're getting themselves into when they go into that room with her.
They didn't originally.
No.
One of my master's supervisors was on the first season of Kunk and didn't have a clue until about halfway through. She started to think, is this woman just genuinely that stupid? Or is there something going on?
Yeah,
but
that thing seems a little bit more innocent to me, though. Whereas this is kind of just really setting them up. Anyway, I'm not going to labour on the point. But
you could argue that today we are so used to fake news and alternative facts that maybe this was a little bit prescient, and it's really easy to make a story up that gains traction, that will have an MP asking questions in the Houses of Parliament about it, you know. And is that a comment on how media can be manipulated? I think it probably is, you know. It's just done in a very clumsy 1990s way, isn't it?
No, I mean, I think the whole premise of it showing how easy it is to whip up hysteria and to invent stories was clever. I just felt the execution of it on occasion was a bit of a mixed bag, really. There were certain elements of it that I really liked. There was this fake and scripted, but for all intents and purposes that we know watching it is a real true-to-life reportage of a school for drugs set in the 70s, but obviously filmed in the 90s.
Yes.
You just let the kids take drugs.
To find out their tolerance.
Yeah, find out their tolerance, and then they'll work their way through it and come out the other side and have gone through their drugs phase. And even that kind of took a sinister turn where one of the young girls went to see the headmaster and said, I've run out of money, so I can't buy my drugs. And he suggested that he goes to see one of the teachers who's recently been divorced.
Widowed.
Yeah. And
maybe he can help you out.
Maybe he can help you out if you help him out.
Yeah.
It was murky and dark, but I thought actually that was one of the best bits.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like a scripted drama.
Yes. And then there's a follow-up where it goes to a modern place, which is a similar approach. But this approach was they told this girl that her parents had been killed because of drugs overdoses, staged a funeral.
Desiree, the young girl.
Yeah. Claire Skinner and Kevin Eldon, the parents. Yeah. And at the funeral, they talk about, while her parents appeared respectable, but on the other hand, they were crazy drug addicts, you know. And then obviously 2 days later, we're not dead really. And the child is clearly traumatised. That was quite funny.
That was quite funny. Yeah. And then we had an appearance by Mark Heap, who's another actor that I really, really like, who was the school drug addict, and he was locked up in a cell, and the school kids can go and watch him get really high, so it's entertaining and funny, and then a couple of days later watch the whole come down process.
Yeah, when he's just screaming abdabs going on. Yeah.
That was really interesting as well. So there were swings and roundabouts about this programme. I didn't hate everything. I thought, the whole setting up of the celebrities was a bit lame and a bit weak, but there was some good writing here and good little drama comedy pieces.
It was weird seeing David Amos, the MP, because he's the one that is killed in 2021, stabbed by an Islamic State sympathiser in his constitutional office. So that was a little bit of a little bit of a shocker. Again, some of the things they make these celebrities say, and they're reading these out. And I think, did you not actually question, were you so blinded by your desire to be seen to be doing something good, to be performing a kind of benevolence and performing something for the community? So there was a thing with this new drug called check neck, where it's just water retention in the neck when your neck swells. One kiddie, according to Bernard Manning, cried all the water out of his body. It simulates the part of the brain that's called Shatner's bassoon, which affects time perception. And as I've said, according to Bernard Manning, one girl threw up her own pelvis bone. Fucking disgrace. I did think, are they really not thinking, could this actually be true? Which I do think is actually a relevant thing to do to people. And so that for the sake of getting yourself on telly and be seen to support a good cause, people will say anything.
If they come into that scenario thinking this is legitimate, then why would they question it? Especially if the film crew and the director are coming in and saying this is a real problem.
Yes, I guess. Yeah.
Then they're not going to automatically think you're a bunch of wind-up merchants.
No, that's true. The one I did draw the line at was Claire Rayner, who's in the studio and she's being shown a Japanese TV show. Apparently the latest craze in Japan is smoking weed via a dog. I'm not quite sure how it works. No. But I thought, oh, not Claire. No.
She needs to be rolling condoms on bananas and things, doesn't she?
Exactly.
She needs to be educational.
Exactly.
She was pretty harmless and they really set her up.
Yeah, they did. A little bit cruel.
Yeah,
I didn't mind seeing Bernard Manning and Rolf Harris and Noel Edmonds getting made a fool of, to be honest.
Not at all. Although it did make me think Noel Edmonds was a little bit more savvy towards it. I don't know, because he was kind of questioning the scripts. Do we have to say this? Do I have to say that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was a bit more like...
Yeah.
What's going on? But I mean, they did get most of them to say this is a made-up drug.
They did, yeah. This is the thing.
Yeah.
So they're talking about the fact that it's chemically made up.
Yeah.
You know, like speed or whatever. But they literally get them to say this drug is a made-up drug. It's made up. Yeah. It's a made-up drug, and still no one clicks or clocks that. What they're saying. This wasn't the most controversial episode of this series. That was the next week's one, which is about paedophilia, which I suppose the humour in this is it's very close to the knuckle because it could almost be taken as a kind of tacit acceptance or a support of drugs or paedophilia, which is why the paedophilia one comes into so much trouble. There was a big buzz before the show even aired because Channel 4 kept delaying it because they were really worried about the kind of... And it was really mistimed because Channel 4's licence was due up for renewal. Are they going to be privatised? And Michael Grade apparently pulled and just kept pushing the transmission back to try and assuage this kind of potential controversy. It didn't work, obviously, because the tabloids... Did the tabloids whip themselves up into a frenzy because they knew Chris Morris is deliberately going for the tabloids and showing how the tabloids whip themselves into a frenzy? So for me, it's quite interesting, that angle of it. It's just very 90s. We've said before 100 times, nothing ages like comedy does, you know. Mostly comedy stops being as funny as it was because taste and humour changes. It's fluid, it's constantly in motion, you know, new influences and stuff. So I wasn't as negative about the use of celebrities as you were, but I just thought it was a little bit.
Yeah.
I did read an article, I think it was in The Independent from back in the day, and it says, you know, the fact that these celebrities took no time to question the absurd statements they were being told to speak speaks to the willingness of people to accept what they told by the media at face value. And someone also suggested that, are we looking here at the invention of fake news? 2 decades on, Brass Eye's heightened sense of media lunacy is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish from the real thing. There is that element, which makes it kind of valid, I think. But you're right about the just punching down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being a bit clever.
Not like what we do.
No, of course.
We like to elevate people.
We elevate. We support. Unless you're Lawrence Fox.
Or Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've nailed our colours to the mast, haven't we?
All that being said, what would you give this as a mark out of 10?
I would give it 6 cake tabs out of 10.
Right. I think I'd give it probably 5 bongs out of 10. It was quite interesting in terms of what we talked about.
Some bits were entertaining, but the overall tone of it, I just felt...
A bit sneery.
A bit Lucky Downy. We'll post a link on our biog, so I think it's worth 24 minutes out of anybody's life just to go and watch it as a kind of observation on press hysteria.
But maybe have it on while you're doing something else. It's not a sit down with a glass of wine and watch it like the stud. It's while you're doing the washing up or something.
Yeah. Well, that was Brass Eye, Gazers.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a couple of big events coming up, haven't we, Dr. Lee Arnott?
Yes, we have, Mr. Dave Moore, because next episode, it's our birthday. Our first birthday. Been 1 year since we started transmitting the problematic gaze.
And look what our journey has unfolded.
Our friendship is tighter than ever. Can't stand him.
Yeah.
Tell you what, tight as my brass eye, that's for sure. No, but here we are, and thank you to all our gazers for listening and continuing support.
Well, we promise we're not going to turn next week into just a massive wank fest.
No.
But we will be celebrating our first birthday, and also, because it comes out on the 3rd of June, which is exactly a year since we launched our first episode.
Wow.
And the month of June is Pride Month.
Pride Month!
So we have curated a series of episodes that will celebrate all things queer.
Indeed they will. Next week we're going back to 1980 for an episode of a non-remembered gay and lesbian lifestyle magazine show called Gay Life, which was broadcast on LWT in 1980.
So a UK programme.
A UK programme.
Wow.
Ran for 2 seasons. What a snapshot of 1980 it will prove to be.
Wow.
Pre-AIDS, of course.
Yes.
You could almost argue it's like the last days of innocence, I guess.
The last hurrah.
The last hurrah. Obviously, if gazers would like to send us gifts for our birthday, send them to the PG Manor in a small village in Hertfordshire. The postman will know where it is. We accept champagne, not cake, because that'll go off, and not the kind of cake we've just seen on Brass. Oh, maybe we do want the kind of cake.
We don't. No, we don't.
Champagne, really. That's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah, we just want champagne, basically.
And book tokens.
DPD and Yodel.
Yeah.
They know as well.
They know as well.
Yeah.
They just look for the turrets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the flag.
Yeah, and meanwhile, dear gazers, whether you're a first-time listener or like Jeannie Nunu and Ruthie, you are
Gazers of old.
gazers of old.
Old school.
Please hit that follow button because, as we said before, we are independent podcast producers. You giving us a follow really helps to spread the word of the problematic gays.
Indeed it does. Please like, follow, subscribe to all the usual socials.
Until next week.
Au reservoir. Don't take drugs, kids. It's not good.
Au reservoir, kids.
Au reservoir.
Just say no.
Just say no.